Today we're going to... Okay. We good now?
Yeah.
Okay. So today we're going to talk about indirect gluing with Easy Care. Yesterday we glued on a one shoe, which is a universal front and hind, and today we're going to glue on an Easy Care race. Okay, predominantly for thoroughbred business. But I glue quite a lot of these onto sport horses as well. They like the support of the 3D pad that's built into them. So, any time in this, if you've got any questions, they've got any queries about anything, don't hesitate to ask, okay? Just put your hand up, Ben will come over with the microphone and we can work through it, okay? So.
First question.
Yes.
Indirect, direct.
Okay.
What is indirect, what is indirect, what is direct?
Okay, so direct gluing and indirect gluing both have a place. Traditionally, direct gluing was the most commonly used until the last few years, really. Okay, direct gluing, you're applying the glue all the way around the hoof wall, locking it on at the heel, and you generally use an aluminium shoe, and you direct glue the shoe on. It's very stable, stabilizes the capsule, but it doesn't allow for much expansion and contraction of the capsule. Often reduces circulation and shock dissipation. Whereas indirect gluing, you're gluing the cuff to the hoof wall. There's no glue generally on the bottom of the solar surface or the loading surface, and the capsule acts pretty much as if it's barefoot for the majority of the things. Okay, so generally for horses traveling at speed and distance, indirect gluing is preferable.
No.
Okay.
You asked Martin. Sorry, we're just having a little issue with our GoPro. So, so for you, indirect is the better route now?
Yeah.
Or do you still direct glue these shoes?
I still direct glue. There are some horses that don't like indirect gluing. Some very small quarter horses, they like the stability of a direct glue. But similarly, if you have horses travelling at speed that are doing distance, not so bad now, we don't have roads and tracks and things like that.
Yeah.
But often, to get to that point of fitness, they have to do a lot of mileage.
Sorry, how do you know they don't like the indirect gluing?
Because they're lame. Yeah.
There's too much flexion.
Too much flexion. Some really delicate quarter horses I do, they're old, they're in their 20s, but they're still quite high level, and they don't like the hyper flexibility of the polyurethane. But next month I'm going to try a race or a roller on her and see if she likes that. So I tried to indirect glue all polyurethane before the season, and she didn't like it. She wasn't lame, but she changed her stride, and the lady didn't want to risk her show season, so she said the end of the season we'll indirect some alleys on. So that's fair enough. Cool. So why do people not glue more shoes on, do you think?
It's fiddly. We don't do it. We're programmed through 4 years to go to this.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm just going to throw it out. There you go. Brilliant. We're working. For me, it's the confidence.
Yeah.
We don't do it enough.
Yeah.
And we don't really understand it, because when it goes wrong, it's easy just to blame, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. So, go ahead.
Sorry.
In answer to your question, I reckon from a farrier's perspective, for someone like Jeff, Hayden, and all the other, and Calvin that do a lot of it, when they tell the customer that the horse has to have nice, clean, dry feet, they respect you. From an average working farrier, they don't listen to us. And I think that's why the rest of us keep backing off, because we can't convince them. This is costing them, but there's no point us doing it in a sense, because we don't have our customers trying to convince the customer to come on board and have the right conditions. And then if we don't have them, we do it. The shoe falls off 2 days, and it gives the product a bad name, and it gives us a bad name. But when you come along with Calvin, Hayden, because it's been a referral, they will listen to you. And I think that's the part we've got to change before we can move forward onto all of this.
Okay.
So almost in a way, customer education.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I always, if I'm going to a new client to glue the shoes on, the afternoon before I go, I always send a message and say, remember, we're coming to shoe Bobby tomorrow. Can you make sure his feet are clean and dry? Can you make sure the area we're going to do is clean and dry? Because the failure rate, if the feet are not clean and dry and the area is not correct, is massive. You know, from literally, if everything is clean and dry and correct, you're looking at a 99% success. If it is not, you're looking at 20% success. You know, and if they don't appreciate the ratio, how big that difference is, you're going to get failures. You know, so it's like when you do foal extensions. If the foal's foot is clean and dry, you do the extension, it stays on. If the foal's foot is not, it will not be, will it?
It's one of those ones, as you said, it's an educational piece, but it is also amazing how customers and grooms learn when you go, can't do it today, I'll have to come back some other time.
Yeah.
And the realisation that they've caused the problem always lands quite well. So,
yeah, because if you've contacted them ahead of time and you've made them fully aware that if it's not clean and dry and as it should be, you can't do it. Even sometimes it's best. I remember once I went to a clinic to do one and it wasn't. And I said, look, I'm not going to do it because if I do this and it comes off, you'll be moaning about it. You know, you'll be, oh, that Jeff, he's useless. His glue on shoes fall off. I never had to do it again because that one time I went there and said, no, sorry, we can't do it. You just set a precedent and that's the end of it. Because you're only ever as good as your last job with gluing. You know,
and shoeing.
Yeah, shoeing in general, but especially because people are hypercritical.
Yeah,
because
it's different.
It's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, would you say as well we probably never had the quality of shoes
for sure
that we have now? I mean, I was that person that really didn't want to get into. I'd glue some alleys on, I'd glue some steels on, but I'd really stay away from it. Now, I bloody love these.
Yeah.
I use them so much.
Yeah, but the whole industry from this aspect has changed massively. You know, now we've got this indirect gluing cuffs with the Easy Care system that almost does it itself.
Yeah.
You know, if you've prepped the feet correctly and applied them nicely, you should have no failures. No, the quality in the product is almost faultless, really. And then also the quality in the acrylics and the polyurethane glues has increased tenfold. You know, if you go back 10 years ago, you had one or two choices really, but now we've moved on and we have sort of second, third generation acrylics. They're impervious to moisture once they've cured. They're much more elastic, more dynamic product. You can do hoof repairs that last 9 months. Just the whole thing has changed, and with that change, more security, and you have more ability to shoe the horses how you want to shoe them. The shoes stay on for longer. People feel more confident in it. You know, I send horses all around Europe in polyurethane shoes or over bonded aluminium, and I'm not worried about it. You know, if a horse has got bad feet, I'd rather glue its shoes on and send it rather than be concerned about somebody having to try and nail some shoes on it, you know, in the back of somewhere, and it might not pan out. You know, so, but the prep is the biggest problem. People generally under prep, try to cut corners, and then they have problems. Okay, so what do you think, Ben? On the prep side of things,
again, I was very fortunate. Went to one of Jeff's lectures, and I realised why gluing wasn't very good. It wasn't gluing; it was Ben. And actually, you were right. There's a couple of key things that you showed us, and my gluing success rate has absolutely to the point where I put a patch on a horse that lost a shoe, and I came back to it 3 weeks later, and normally a patch that size put on relatively quickly, I must say, I would have expected it to come off. Bloody thing stuck on like a tree. It was absolutely not moving. And again, preparation. A video that Jeff did 2-3 years ago where you were like, stop gluing onto crap. And I was like, oh yeah, the reason why my glue comes off is because I'm sticking it on brown, degraded horn. And actually, it's the preparation, isn't it?
It is the preparation, it is for sure. So, what would be your normal prep, do you think? What would be the normal kind of thing you'd do? So you've got a nice, say we're going to shoe the horse here, got a nice clean floor. Where we're not direct gluing, the floor itself is not as critical, okay? It wants to be dry for sure, and you don't want a load of detritus all over the floor. And if the horse has come in, sometimes if the feet aren't that clean and you clean them up, I'd always clean them up over there and then bring it over to where you're going to shoe, okay? So what are the main problems people have with their prep, do you think? Yeah?
Dirt and moisture.
That's right. Okay, and how do you think we're going to get away from that?
Educate your customer first, and
Yeah.
then keep going.
Yeah, so we're going to start out, the horse is going to come in, his feet are going to be clean and dry, we've got the area clean and dry. Okay, the next thing we're going to do Okay, so I've come over, the horse has been assessed, we're happy with the shoeing plan we're going to do, okay, and we're happy with the shoes we're going to use. So today we're going to use these race, Easy Care Race, all right? And I'm just going to I'm just going to pass that around to you.
I'll pass this one.
So you can just have a look and you can see that you can modify them more than you think, okay? So you can, when you fit them, you can linish more material off, okay? So if you just pass that around, you can have a look at those. And it doesn't matter if you touch the inside of the cuffs and all the rest of it, we're going to clean all that.
So what kit do I need?
Okay, so generally a torch, a wire brush, you want a dedicated wire brush, okay? Don't use the wire brush that you generally use for brushing your feet out when you're shoeing. You want a dedicated wire brush, preferably stainless, because you don't get any rust contamination, okay? You want a little butane torch, very small and easy. Most horses will put up with that, okay? You can get smaller ones, but if you're trying to attack them with a big butane torch, it's generally not going to work out, especially fitter horses, okay? Easy Care has their own range of hoof and shoe cleaner, okay, which is isopropanol based, okay? We're going to need acrylic, and we're going to want some super glue for the end, okay? The reason we use the super glue is to reseal the foot, especially these days. People are washing their horses a lot more if they're going to hot climates and they're washing them. You want to try and sort of stabilize the moisture in the capsule, and if you apply super glue, that stabilizes it, okay?
Your chef's torch, I just want to show everyone, these really aren't expensive. They go, if you have a look, on Amazon now, 12 quid.
Yeah.
The difference they make to your job is 1,200%.
Yeah. If you buy, the better quality one you buy, you just have to make sure all the elements inside are tight, because when they bounce around in your van, all the guts fall out of them.
Yeah.
And it can be very emotional.
Yeah. When it doesn't work,
yeah,
you generally don't have a backup one.
No, it's bad. So I generally always have 2 guns, extra wrap. Got wrap.
Can I ask, why would you use one of these butane and not a heat gun?
No flex. You have no flex. You can use it on the truck easily. You don't need the power. And sometimes, if you've got the flex or those battery-powered heat guns aren't very hot.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's a very localized heat, which we'll go over in just a sec. Okay, so we're not going to do big chats about the trimming. Okay, generally, you trim the foot as if you were going to shoe the foot traditionally, apart from obviously we're going to clean the wall a bit more aggressively, but we're not talking about raping the wall at all, okay? For instance, have we got the shoe back?
Yeah.
Thank you. So people often think with indirect gluing, you need to strip the wall top to bottom, then everybody's getting quite emotional about overdressing walls, which is fair enough. Okay, but with this, for instance, you can see here that we're just halfway up the wall, really. Okay, so you don't need to dress all the way to the coronary band. Only dress and clean where your cuff's going to go. Okay, and then you've still got a lot of area here. But what I normally do is I dress these areas, and then I just blend the rest in with a sanding block, because then everything looks clean and tidy, just like you would do an examination sort of level work or whatever you're doing, nice finish work. But you don't have to get into the coronary band, you don't have to come up too high. So literally, just clean where your cuffs are going. Okay? All right? So, what I do is, I do like an 80% trim on the foot, so I'm happy with that. And then once I'm happy with that trim, I get my shoe, size it up, and then I will, in the loosest term, as a lot of farriers would think, fit the shoe. Okay? When we talk about fit shoes, we're removing materially, okay, when we're using all of these indirect glue on shoes, okay, there's no fitting as in shaping it in a traditional manner, okay, but once you get using them and you can manipulate the shoe and remove material, in the design they've put too much material around the heels and areas so you can reduce it, okay, so you can just have a little look at this. Okay, and we can see.
I'll bring the camera up there. Can I ask, obviously different breeds, different horses have different foot shapes.
Yeah.
These shoes are made in a factory to a template.
They are.
So you need to carry different shapes.
Yeah. and
How
that's-
many different shapes do Easy Care have, and what would they be for my warm blood, for my thoroughbred?
Yeah, no, so they're totally different shape, and there are, you have Easy Care Race, you have Easy Care Roller, you have a Versa Glue, you have a Speed Track, so there's a whole range of shoes for different shaped feet, and you have front and hinds in most of the ranges. You don't have a front and a hind, you just have fronts in Race and Roller. Okay, but you can see here, this is the standard,
See that?
how it comes.
Yeah.
Okay, and then this side is boxed and safed up, appropriate for a horse travelling at speed.
That's it.
Okay, so we've got our foot 80% prepped, then we've got our shoe
I was going to say, if
fully
you bring
prepped
one of
now.
each, we can do
okay,
this is
so the next thing we're going to do, we're now going to clean the rest of this. Okay, so what we'll do is we will torch this 3 times. Okay, and that is especially important in our environment where we have a lot of ambient moisture and rain and all the rest of it. So 3 torch and 3 brush. Okay, so literally, just give the horse a pat, just go forward. I don't use a foot stand generally, just bring it up onto my knee and then literally just work it around. But because we're not going all the way to the heel with the cuff, you only need to dry where the cuff is really. Okay, don't go up to the hairline and start singeing it. Okay.
I don't know if you're touching this afterwards, because obviously your hand's going to be a bit greasy.
Yeah, but so we're starting on the cleaning phase now.
Right.
Okay, so we're not touching it.
Right, okay, so now is the point where we try and handle as less as possible.
That's right.
Gloves, are they important to use whilst doing this?
Yeah, I'm going to put the gloves on just in a moment when I get the glue ready.
Okay,
Okay.
But in cleaning phase, as long as you're working your way out,
Yeah,
it's fine.
yeah,
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to lick this around, all the way round
Amazing.
and back, and then when you brush it, you want to clean it away. Okay, if you scrub it, you're putting it back on.
Yeah.
Okay, if you come round away from yourself like this, or forward away this way, then that dust and debris is going away and staying away.
That's
okay.
brilliant.
Some people will use a
Awesome,
wire
thank
brush
you
on a
very
wheel, but you're really just grinding it back in and
Quite good to
producing
show
more
everyone.
rubbish. So you want to use it, brush it away,
Oh, wow.
and we'll do that again here. So then torch again.
No, that's cool.
Just like that, and then again.
So sometimes I've got, again, I blame you for making me spend money on Amazon, Jeff, but
Yeah.
I went out and bought all the gear because
Yeah.
Benny loves kit. So I went out and bought myself a little drill
Yeah.
with a wire brush on it.
Yeah.
Are they okay to use?
They're okay, but they're better for use when you're doing ground pads and things like that.
Okay.
Okay, because this literally, you pull it back, and all of that dust is coming away.
Sure.
Okay, and sometimes when we do the videos, you have
Our electric weekend will be starting in 10 minutes in the David Gully Lecture Theatre. We've got Paul Warner speaking at
Okay.
2:45 in the David Gully Lecture Theatre.
and then away. So now that foot is technically ready. Okay, but what for an extra step, especially in the UK and where the moisture levels are high and all the rest of it, what we do is we use the hoof and shoe cleaner. Okay, now when you use this, okay, we're not soaking the foot in it. Okay, you literally,
A dusting.
yeah, just like that, and you can see we call it flashing off. So
If
you
we
can see
can
this.
do that in front of the camera,
Yeah.
everyone can kind of get there, see it happen.
Okay, so literally, as this is drying here, as it's drying, it's going this light grey. You can see it's starting to flash off there.
Can I ask, what is that?
So this is alcohol-based.
Okay.
Okay.
So not acetone.
No, definitely no acetone.
Because back in the day, everybody
Yeah,
used to use
well, it's 'cause
acetone.
they were confused.
Why should you not use acetone?
Acetone leaves a dry residue, and then if you're using polyurethanes, that will stick to that residue, and that will fail.
So polyurethane is what? What's an acrylic and what's a polyurethane?
Okay, so polyurethanes and acrylics, both perfectly acceptable for gluing shoes on. The only difference really is when you're in high moisture environments, you're better with an acrylic. So other countries that are warm and dry, polyurethane's no problem at all. Here in the winter, with our moisture content and everything else, an acrylic is just more robust and is more forgiving. Okay, because the acrylic will go through and go through a bit of moisture, go through a bit of dust, whereas the polyurethane won't.
It just sticks to the first thing it meets.
That's right. So
Right.
so they're both perfectly good, but depending on the environment you're working in, you've got to just make the right choices.
Sure.
Okay, so this foot now, that's flashed off, that is perfectly clean, and what I just always do is just I give it one last little wire brush. Okay, so you know the capsule is perfectly good. Okay, and then now this is a good time to double check your shoe. Okay, so if you're a new client and you've passed them the shoe and they've handed it around to all their kids and everybody on the yard, they've all had their hands on the inside of the cuff. So the cuff is basically, for want of a better word, is contaminated. Okay, but it's not the end of the world, all right? Because when they come from the factory, there is mold release on the inside of these anyway. So, and then we've shaped the shoe up with our linisher. But you know, don't be afraid. The cuffs are very robust and very resilient, so you can fold these cuffs out the way so that you can linish them and have no problems at all. Okay, so you don't have any worries. Some manufacturers, their cuffs just aren't that robust, and if you start flexing them out the way, they start to fail almost immediately. Whereas these polyurethane injection molded cuffs are super durable. Okay, so we fit the shoe. We're happy with that, and then we're going to clean this. Okay, because everybody's touched it a little bit. What we'll do is we'll just give it a very, very light clean with your cleaner. Okay, and we just let that evaporate and flash off. Okay.
What do you do with the horse's foot at this point? How are you
Yeah,
keeping the horse
this-
clean? Keep going. Yeah.
So this floor would be perfectly acceptable where we're not direct gluing. Okay, the area we're gluing to is up the wall, isn't it? So unless it's rubbing its foot on the wall,
Okay.
you've got no issue.
So the beauty with these is it's so much easier
Yeah.
in an everyday environment to be able to get a good bond because
Absolutely.
you're dealing with the wall, not the bottom
Yeah,
of the foot.
even if there's some detritus on the floor, it's unusual if a horse treads in it, unless it treads in a pile of droppings, the wall very, very rarely gets contaminated, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Really. The
Yeah.
bottom gets contaminated just standing there, but up the wall, almost never, really.
No.
You know, in this situation.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And another thing, as you can see, when the cuffs come out of the box, they're often a little bit squashed down like this. Okay. And if you've got quite upright feet or it's cold, okay, the cuffs can feel quite stiff. All right. And the best thing to do with that is to give them a little bit of heat. Okay. And you don't have to rush. Okay. And don't get too close. Just give them some heat, and you'll see they go more opaque. And any moisture that's in there, even though you've degreased it, just a little bit of heat, and then these become super malleable. See that? If you've got a horse's heels tie in quite quickly, if you heat the cuffs nicely, you can see how malleable that becomes, and it will just shape up much nicer. Be a lot easier for you. Okay, so we're not touching the inside of the cuff. And this will stay malleable like this for quite a while. All right, so there's no rush. So gloves on.
Another really geeky technical question.
Yep.
Gloves. I hate gloves
Okay.
because the ones I always seem to buy fall apart, can't get my hands in them, they stick. What gloves do you use? What's your go-to?
Okay, I use these gator grips just because I've got massive hands. So most of the manufacturers, they don't make them big enough and they're too thin. You pull them on and you rip straight through them.
That's my problem. As you're trying to fight with something or get a glove on, it just seems to rip.
There used to be another really good manufacturer, but they've seemed to have gone now. So I just use these because they don't rip. But it is very important, despite whatever glue you're using, whether it's super glue, whether it's polyurethane, whether it's an acrylic, whether it's a safe acrylic, whether it's a standard acrylic.
Paul Warner is just about to start his lecture in the David Gully Lecture Theatre. Paul Warner is about to start at 2:45.
There's only so much of that you can keep getting on your skin, which gets into your body before you've had enough of it. You know, so if you don't do anything else, wear gloves when you're dealing with the adhesives, any adhesive at all, because there's only so much that you can put up with. Okay.
Just as a quick
yeah.
point there, and I think this is, you've worked with glues. I've known you working with glues for 20-something years now.
Yeah.
We don't, and Jim and Kelvin were talking about this earlier, we don't respect them enough, do we?
No.
Actually, how dangerous.
Yeah, they're bad.
And it's the ones sometimes that you can't smell are the worst, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah,
So from your point of view, when you're working on horses, do you have a fan? What's your...
Yeah, so over the years, if I'm doing a lot of gluing in one place, I set a fan up so that the fume's just blown away across the yard and out of the way, really. So we've got our glue in our gun, we're happy with that. The most important thing is to purge your cartridge, okay? So all the cartridges are filled in the factory, there's no problems with that, okay? But invariably, you can get some air bubbles trapped in there, okay? And the first part of the failure of your glue job is when you don't purge your cartridge, okay? So flip this over. Okay,
So
we're going to
purge.
purge.
For those that are like me, I wasn't sure, what does purge mean? Squeeze it out.
Yeah. And you can see here that we've got the two elements of the acrylic, okay? And you can see in this particular one, the black element comes through the center, okay? And we have the outside element and the internal one, and we've both got equal amounts of both. Okay, so that's it. That's all you need to do. The better and better these cartridges get, the less purging you need to do. Okay, but this cartridge is purged, so regardless of how many tips I put on it, I don't need to repurge it. Okay, so that element of that is ready to go.
And you'll do this to every single tube?
Every one.
Every time, before you've even done anything?
Yep. Okay, so then we've got our cartridge, we've got our nozzle, okay? We just screw that on, but you don't purge your nozzle until you're going to use it, okay? Because the material will go off in your nozzle, all right? So you just got to make sure you're happy with that. So like, for instance, often when I do it, I do this first before I even trim it, okay? So that's ready to go, and all I've got to do is purge my nozzle, and I'm good to go.
Now, being a fiscally responsible Welshman, I historically have had times where I don't use a nozzle.
Okay.
Is that a good thing, or is that a bad thing?
So as time has moved on and we're with third generation acrylics, they have a lot more elements in them, and the elements are smaller and there's more. So when you pump it into a cup and then you whip it up with a tongue depressor, you are adding contaminants from the outside, whether that be moisture, dust, all different elements, and that will affect your set time and your adhesion ratio. Okay, so if you want constant, equal, repetitive, correct gluing processes, your best, even if you think, oh, it's so many pence for the nozzle, you save time and money and you always have the same correct, repetitive result. If you put it into a cup, you never get the same amount. You've mixed it 15 times, 500 times. It was like 50,000 blends. It's like unbelievable. Okay, then you get a constant product that is the same every time. Okay.
I think if something's mixed 24 times, it's 1.2 million mixes.
So it's ridiculous. It's way above my pay grade. Okay, so if you want consistent results, use a nozzle. Okay, especially where Equinox only had so many elements in it. These new acrylics have like 5 times the elements, and they just need a proper blending. All right.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And again, we go back to why did my glue fail? Because I didn't prep and I did it by hand thinking I was clever.
Okay, so this is a good bit. This is one of the best things about indirect gluing. So if you've got horses that aren't that mobile or very spooky, direct gluing can be a problem, especially if they're sore, because you have to keep the foot up unless you're extremely skilled at wrapping. In a general case, indirect gluing is a lot less involved, okay? So we developed a method where you use super glue to fast fix the shoe in place. Then you can put the foot down, you can put the shoe down, you can move the horse around, check how comfortable it is. Vet can re-x-ray it if they want. It's good. Whereas traditionally, if we were in a situation where the vet wanted us to adjust the feet, place the shoes on, even if we just use 2 nails, and then they re-x-rayed it, then you've got the concussion and the extra hassle of taking the shoe back off, making an adjustment. But if you fast fix it with super glue, you can just pop it off. It's no big deal. Okay, so the easy bit, here we go.
So what?
You right?
Yeah. Just put that in front of the camera so everyone can see. So what are you getting now, Jeff? What's this?
Okay, so we've got our super glue, and to begin with this, everybody gets quite excited about using an accelerator and what super glue to use. The thing to do when you first do it is not try and rush anything. Okay, so we're going to put our super glue on, and we're going to run this around the radius of the wall here. Okay, just like that. Okay, our cuff's still malleable, even though it's been sat there for a little while. Okay, we're happy with that. We then position this. Okay, and because I haven't used any activator yet, there's no rush. Okay,
Camera's working.
we can position the shoe and make sure we're happy with it. All right, so we've done that. And then this would be the time when we pop this foot down and the other leg, we pick the other leg up for a few seconds, okay? But if we're happy with this, we're happy with all that, what we'll do is we'll spray a little bit of activator.
Can you give Martin
and that will
a
speed
shout?
things
He doesn't
up.
answer his phone
Okay?
to me.
All right, but we don't need to use gallons of it. Okay, so we'll just let that go. And then I'm going to pass this around so you can all have a little look at it, see the fit and everything else. And if this was in real life, the horse could stand on it and make sure it's comfortable. And if we need to make any changes to it, we could then just pop it off, make the changes, put it back on. Okay. There we go. Right. So obviously I haven't trimmed this foot, so we've got a bit of a floating heel here, but we won't get too technical about that. Okay. So if you'll just have a little pass that around, and that is hypothetically, technically, that is fast fixed in place, okay? So you could then, if you wanted to, get on with the other foot, so that you could do your gluing in one go, okay? Or you could walk the horse up and see how it is, or you can just let it stand there and calm down if it's already freaked out and the kid's ridden into the feed buckets and upset everything.
I suppose that's the amazing thing about the super glue and that fast fix is it gives you a chance to get it right,
Yeah.
and it gives you a chance to make a tweak, doesn't it? Because once you've properly glued on, you can't really mess with that.
No.
Whereas this, you can have as many goes again as you want. Now, if I was to get this wrong and take this off, Jeff, with your glue, does it allow me to fix straight back to it, or do I have to do the whole flashing and
no, because
brushing?
The thing about using the super glue to fix it in place is a sacrificial bond. So it's
sorry, keep talking.
Yeah. So we use the super glue as a sacrificial bond. It only holds that shoe in place while we're applying the acrylic, and so that we have the safety of if the horse is upset or stomping with flies, we don't have any dramas, and we can double check everything is perfect. The thing about direct gluing is you don't have many shots at it. If when you put the foot down, if you don't like it or the vet wants it changed, you've got to take it all off. But with this, you've got plenty of time. You can remove that. Well, what we'll do is when I get that shoe back, I'm going to pop that off and then we'll super glue it back on again, just to show you.
And when it comes to prepping it, so do you need to...
No, because I haven't touched the wall, have I? The wall where we're going to glue that shoe on is prepped and protected by the cuff.
Of course it is. So, up there for thinking, down there for dancing. So, if I can pass that back to Jeff, and he's going to do a quick demo.
Okay, so obviously, okay, so that's on there, okay, but you can pull it off, okay, and literally, you know, you could have just popped that off and then it's off. You can smack it with a rasp on the back and that's gone, okay, but the wall is still prepped and clean, the shoe is still prepped and clean, so there's no problem at all with that. So what we'll do is we will just re-super glue that, just for fun. We'll spray activator in the shoe. So we've now re-trimmed and adjusted our foot. We're happy with our fit. Okay, and now we're back to where we were. Okay, so we've had no drama, no stress.
Quick, that simple.
Yeah, because we haven't affected any of the wall, have we?
No.
You know, we've done a little adjustment, you know, and quite often we could have done that one-handed with the rasp anyway. We haven't put it back between our legs. It's only subtle differences, isn't it? Okay, so then we're happy with that, and we're back in business.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm going to come round that side.
Nice.
So obviously our cartridge and everything is purged, so we know that's good. So then,
And I presume, I can see this is black. There's light and black in the Easy Care glue.
yeah. So there's the clear, which is a natural or neutral colour that we used yesterday.
Because that was almost like,
Invisible.
well, it was invisible, wasn't it?
Yeah, so if you want, I'll show you some images in a minute, but it pretty much makes the cuffs totally invisible on the right coloured foot, which is amazing. Okay, so have we got any tongue depressors?
No, there isn't, but I can rip you a bit of cardboard if you want.
So this is all ready to go. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll start at the base and we'll start injecting. Thanks.
So you're literally just sticking it in. I notice you're pardon the phrase, but waggling it round a bit.
Yeah.
You're literally just almost using the tip of the nozzle to lift that cuff up a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. And then we repeat this on the other side. You want to make sure it goes all the way to the base. All the way to the edge of the cuff, all the way to that gasket. You know, the beauty of these cuffs is they're designed in a way so they have a gasket on the outer edge and they have nodules on the inside so that you always have a uniform thickness of glue. Where's my cardboard? Okay, so generally we'd use a tongue depressor for this.
So you don't want any material really stuck out.
So the cleaner and tidier you get this part of the process before you wrap it, the better.
So there's my realisation yesterday when Jeff did this. I found it really hard to get these to look as nice as obviously Jeff's do, and I was trying to work out, and I realise now I actually probably had way too much material on, way too much acrylic on the outside of the cuff, thinking that I'm going to rasp it back. This is the time to do it, I suppose, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And,
So
you're moving the excess back to the back of the tab. Why is that? Why are you putting it at the back?
Especially for the first time you start doing these, you don't want any failures.
No.
So if you put a bit more material at the back here, it just reinforces that area, and it makes it less likely to pull it.
Yeah.
And then as you get more experience and happier with your fitting, you can put less back here.
Yeah.
But I always go with a bit there to begin with because the worst thing is the loss.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we move on any more, okay, that's really what it wants to look like before you wrap it. Okay, so it almost looks like it's finished.
Can I just do that? I've got hold of it.
Yeah.
Can you see that there? See how Jeff set his heels up? Literally. Cool.
Okay, and so we're not rushing to get this wrapped. Okay, the shoe is fast fixed, secured to the foot, so there's no drama. Okay, and then the other beauty about this, you don't have to do any fancy wrapping. You know, a lot of people, you see guys fit in the Sigafoo shoes or direct gluing and wrapping. There's a lot of high-speed wrapping and multiple changes, and it all looks very complicated, and it put me off as well. I was like, no. Okay, we've already got it fixed in position, so all the wrap is going to do is pull the cuffs into place. Okay, and literally round we go, and you want to make sure that your wrap has enough weight to it, so that when you pull it, it's doing the job. Okay, so then I always pop the foot down on the floor, and then I just bring it forward, and then I just go round again. So I just go round again, round the edge, round the top edge, work this down. If you've got too much acrylic here or too much polyurethane, you can just pop a hole in there with a nail or a hoof pick and just work that down like that, and it'll just work out like a spot all the way round. Okay? Right. So I'm just going to hand this over to you guys, and you can hand that around and have a good look at it while it's going off, okay?
So with these shoes, what's, if can I still use pour-in pads?
Yep, absolutely.
Can I use dental
Yep,
under them?
yep.
Is there anything you need to be careful of?
Okay, so if you're going to use, the easiest way is to use a pour-in pad with these, and if you can super glue the mesh into place and then put it on,
Yep.
and then inject it at the end.
Yeah.
Because then as well you can decide whether you're having a full pour or half a pour.
Yeah.
So if you have a full pour this time of year, you're going to have some issues.
Yeah.
And similarly, people often go wrong by putting too much dim in. Like for instance, if you have a 1,
which is this
that one there, okay. So you have, if you have this shoe, and it has the built-in pad, which is lovely. If you put too much dim in here and then put it on, the dim flashes up the inside of your cuff, so then your cuff's contaminated. So you're better off to pop a couple of holes in here and use a pour-in pad until you get established with how much material you're going to put in. Okay, it's easier to add it in afterwards, but if you're already on a time crunch and then you have problems, and then you've got to degrease all the cuffs, get all the dim off it, it's bad.
Yeah.
Any other questions while this is coming round?
So I think the beauty with this is literally at every stage using these Easy Care shoes, you can add a little bit more, take a bit off. It gives you opportunities to fix it as you go on. It's not like the old Sigafoos that once they're on, and
that's it.
That's it.
And similarly with these, you can generally get at least 1 refit, maybe 2 with these. So you can peel the cuff and go again. So even if things go really badly wrong when you first do this, it's not a loss. You can clean all the glue off the cuff.
Because the acrylic doesn't actually stick to the tab, does it?
No. So what some people get a bit confused with is they feel that they think that the main bond is to the inside of the cuff. It's not. It's the material going through the cuff and with the countersink on the outside, like that Lego block effect, so it locks on. So the first time you use them, the attachment to the inside of the cuff is very low, but as you refit them and the inside of the cuff degrades, you get a higher bond. So that's why you normally get the first refit is easy, the second refit not as easy, and generally if you're getting a third one, it's unlikely because the adhesion is so much more. Each time you refit them, they glue on stronger.
And what happens if the inevitable happens and the horse pulls the shoe and rips the tab off? Is it savable? How do I have to use a tab, or could I even nail them on if I need to?
You can nail them on for sure. They've got holes in them for nailing them, and the cuff is designed to have a failure. It's not like if you direct glue bar shoes on and the horse hangs itself in the fence, you could separate your hairline at the heel bob easily. Okay, there has to be a failure built in, and it's built into the cuff. But generally, the cuffs are quite robust and the failures are low. But generally what happens when people lose them, it's their prep. And if you look at your shoe that's come off, if the glue is attached to the inside of the cuff and not the foot, your foot prep's no good, and vice versa. So if the glue's all attached to the foot and not the cuff, your cuff prep's no good. Okay, so it's an easy thing to have a discussion about yourself. If you've lost a shoe, okay, can you send me a picture? As soon as you get the picture, you're like, oh no, the cuff is still on there, so it's had a major it's had a big incident where a big overreach or multiple overreach, or it's hung its foot in a gate or a fence, and then that has given up.
But you can replace that?
Yeah, you can replace that, yeah. With some heat welding, you can cut the cuff off. It's a little bit involved, but it can be done.
To be fair, and it is as easy as that, isn't it? When we were there, we took on my first pair, my apprentice, without realising, trimmed the front of the tab off, and I just managed to get literally a hot shoe, rub the two bits together on the hot shoe, and then stick them together, and I refitted that shoe.
Yeah.
And it didn't come off.
So this acrylic's gone now. Yeah. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll peel this off.
We'll show the camera. So it's really neat and tidy now, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, and we've got this blended on at the heel. You could add a bit more to that if you wanted to. you know. But generally, that's about what we're aiming for, because you can always tidy it up more,
Yeah.
you know. But if you're at that point, that's acceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then what we'll do with this is, now to seal this, we're going to put super glue on. Okay. Then you've got choices with the Easy Care super glue. If you want a matte finish, you just use the super glue. Then if you want a gloss finish, you then use the activator. Okay. So we'll do a gloss finish.
If you put a gloss finish on, Jeff,
Yeah.
would that mean that the client's horrible black hoof oil that they try and put on for shows won't
Yeah,
stick?
but it's nicer. Yeah. So no hoof oils or anything like that. But if you think, so we're going to finish this with super glue. So we're resealing the foot. We're stabilising the moisture content. Yeah. Okay. And if you're going to do that,
This is a really interesting one. So we had, when I worked at Tokyo, we had so many horses coming out, and the ambient temperature out there every day was really hot. So if you left a bucket of water outside overnight, 8 o'clock in the morning, that bucket of water was 28 degrees. When those horses were working in a school, 45 minutes, they come back in, you couldn't hold on to the shoes. And those horses were being washed twice a day, and actually feet were absorbing more, drying out, absorbing more, drying out. It's a game changer now, just to be able to stabilise that wall.
so you can see here, I'm using an old piece of wrap to spread my super glue. Okay?
Why?
And the reason we do that is, if you do it with a glove, your glove will stick to the super glue. Okay? And that's bad news, but you just use a bit of wrap, you're away, and then literally,
So if you didn't use the activator, how long would it take for the super glue to dry?
30 seconds on the wall.
Yeah.
But as well, what you've got to remember is, you're not getting the true characteristics of the adhesive or the super glue, because we're gluing onto a plastic foot that also has no temperature to it. So all of this would go quicker on the live horse.
Sure.
Because of the ambient temperature of the foot and all the rest of it. Okay?
But as a little tip and trick takeaway, Jeff, would you say for anyone with some very thin-walled thoroughbreds or something like that in a wet environment, would you use super glue on the walls anyway?
Yeah, definitely, yeah, for sure. And also, if you're doing horses that are really delicate, when you've wrapped it and the glue's going off, if you can feel them looking a bit agitated, if you have some wet blue paper towel, and you can just lay that around the capsule, and that will just take a little bit of heat out. And also, you know, sometimes some owners are very particularly and finicky about these things. They're like, oh, the glue's burning it. But if you've just got that little extra wet paper towel, just lay them on there, there'll be no temperature to it at all. Because as soon as the chemical reaction has happened, you can cool it down nicely, but a gentle cool. It's not like you've just shoved its foot in an ice bucket. You don't want to give it thermal shock. So everything just wants to be subtle. But what you've got to remember as well is, we're using a very, very small amount of acrylic with this, or polyurethane. Okay, you always have the same thickness because of the design of the cuff.
I suppose when you think that those little nipples on that, they maintain that depth of glue, don't they?
Gauge thickness.
You're not going to get half an inch on one side.
No, absolutely. So you've got all of that, and you know, it's not like we do a fold extension, you have a big lump of acrylic.
Yeah.
This is only 3 times the thickness of a credit card.
Gosh, at best. That's amazing. So you can see just that level of finish that Jeff's got on there.
And that's the ugliest we can do it, really. You know, if you're doing it on a real horse, you can do a much nicer prep on the wall, have a nice sanding block finish, get it clean, and then when you do that, it almost disappears.
We've got a question here.
Yeah, I'm just interested. Have you ever come across sort of delamination of the wall, or the sort of stuff sometimes we struggle with casting?
Yeah.
You have to put copper sulfate.
Yeah.
Have you had, because there's that great scare story, or what happens long term?
Yeah.
Glue usage. I'm just interested.
Okay, so there's a few answers in that question. So, do you have delamination problems and things with gluing on shoes long term? Yes and no, but not yes because the glue is causing a problem to the foot. Generally, remember in the UK, we're gluing on shoes as a last resort. Okay, so the feet are often compromised anyway, and they've often got poor quality and delaminations already within it. You know, so sometimes people say, "Oh, yeah, gluing those shoes on has made my horse's wall delaminate and fall apart." Well, it's falling apart anyway. And often people haven't just been aggressive enough with the prep to get rid of that rubbish and detritus. But what you don't get, that you do get with a cast, is we've obviously dressed and cleaned this foot, degreased it, used our alcohol and a torch, very low level bacteria, and then this is sealed. Okay, so it's not like a cast. When you come back to a cast and it's all got a bit loose and it's full of detritus and bacteria and it's just like a bandage full of bugs, you don't get that at all, because this foot now, this is all sealed. The glue has no osmotic effect. There's no bugs and things passing through that into the wall. So anything that is under that cuff is what you've left there. Okay, but similarly, if you're treating horses that have had white line disease, holes and things like that, you cannot use iodine. Okay, if you use iodine, the glue will not stick.
That's a really interesting one. So alongside that as well, things like magic cushion.
Yeah.
You have to be really careful. When you're at a 3-day, the last thing you want is for anyone to put magic cushion on something overnight, because if you've got to put soft pack on it the next day, it's not sticking, is it?
No.
So what would you say, the interesting thing is, with these then, Jeff, and your glue, you can take out, resect a bit of wall, and then
absolutely.
you're replacing it instantly, and you're not putting a nail in, so it's going to be more comfortable.
That's right, absolutely.
So what would you use to treat seedy toe that would mean that the glue will be okay?
Copper sulfate. Copper sulfate and acrylic, and copper sulfate and polyurethanes, they're like friends, whereas iodine is nobody's friend. But it's a shame really, because iodine's really good for treating bacteria issues and white line disease and all that stuff. But once it's on the foot, it takes a long time to get it off, and you have no hope of sticking a shoe to it remotely.
Would that be the same with eucalyptus oil? The vets, our local vets, like to make eucalyptus and iodine mixed together.
Okay. Could be bad.
Yeah. Okay. But copper sulfate is fine.
Yeah, copper sulfate is fine, and you can even mix with some other acrylics, like the Third Millennium acrylic, and with J-Meg, and with Equilox. It's not uncommon to mix copper sulfate in with that.
Yeah, that's what we used to do. Mix it in, and then it has that leach effect. But it does change your set times, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And the more you add, the longer it takes, and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But because you're adding a contaminant, really.
Yeah.
And especially when you whip it in, that's why with other acrylics, if you're going to mix copper sulfate, you mix the glue first, so the blend is correct through the nozzle.
Then add the copper sulfate.
Yeah.
The other thing as well is there's so much variance in copper sulfate that you get really dusty, fine stuff which doesn't last under a pad, but you can get some really coarse stuff. But equally, what would you say would be the best type of copper sulfate for mixing in with an acrylic? Would
finer
you
stuff,
go for
probably.
the finer?
Yeah. But that's not something you need to do with this.
Just straight on.
But that's if you're treating issues prior to. Similarly, if you had, for instance, halfway around this wall here, if this horse had been nailed on and had a tight nail or whatever, okay, but the horse had to get going as soon as possible, you could relieve that area. You could open this cuff up, cut a hole in it. You can put some product called butyl tape in there, glue it on, and then fish that out afterwards, and then you've got a window that you can treat. And I do that all the time with small white line disease areas and stuff like that. Pack that with the butyl tape, cut the hole, and then away you go. All right, because then you've got the shoes on, the horse is comfortable and protected, it's up off the ground, the owner and the vet are happy because everyone's looking very proactive, and you haven't got to rush back to it. The worst thing is if you've gone to do a horse, you can't do it because it's got a manky foot, but if you think, actually I can just remove that part of the cuff, glue the shoe on, the foot's stable, the horse is comfy, it's up off the ground, it can be hand walked or controlled exercise, and then you haven't got to rush back to it because we haven't got time for any of that, have we? We've got 100 other dramas going on, but if the shoe's on, the horse is comfy, the owner's happy, the vet is knowing you're doing everything you can do, and you're away, so that's a good thing. Was there another part of that question I haven't answered? Okay.
So don't be afraid to mix it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then from the owner's management point of view now, are they still okay to use hoof foil or corny crescent, or should you get them to stay away from that?
Stay away from all that, and that's why if it's people that prefer like a glossy finish, you can double up on the super glue if you want to really make them shiny.
Yeah.
But really, you want to keep away from any oils or any of that malarkey. Okay. And then also going forward from that, the next time you come to do it, the amount of cleanliness obviously should always be clean and dry. But when you remove the cuff, you don't have to remove all your glue. Okay. For instance, if you're doing some real fine walled horses that are delicate, you don't have to remove all that glue back down to the hoof wall. If the bond is good, double check how it is at the bottom, because the bottom area is where it always goes first. Okay, so clean that edge back if you need to, and then just remove of that acrylic or polyurethane what you need to. Okay, you don't have to keep going back to the wall all the time. And
You're almost going back onto the tab that you've left yourself, and then just coming straight off that.
Yeah,
that's really good. That's really cool.
Because a lot of the time, the moaning about gluing on shoes is, oh, you're always raping the wall, always raping the wall. But generally, if you clean and prep your wall correctly the first time, going forward from that, there's very little prep, because you've already got that area there is already clean and perfect. So if the glue is correct, you can just remove it down to a level so it's correlate with the radius of your wall, and then you're only going however much you've trimmed off further up, aren't you? So if you've removed, depending on how much foot growth you've removed, that you've only got to come up another little bit, so when you look at it in that way, you think, well, actually we're not hitting the wall that much, we're not keep dressing this wall and dressing it, we're only cleaning the bit we need to, so it becomes much more acceptable.
And then last question now, we've got some different types of shoes.
Yep.
Some of the Easy Care shoes. Would you mind just telling us what are these shoes and what would you use them for? So we go shoe 1.
Okay, so this is an Easy Shoe 1, which is developed to be a front or hind pattern, which other parts of the world, they have no problem dealing with that, but here, because of our training, we think that is a ridiculous suggestion. But once you get your head around it a little bit, it's not so bad. Especially if you're doing horses of a Dutch-based things that are longer and narrower. These particular ones, they're developed with more length.
Or the Spanish horses, the Iberians. I've got a few in these. Really
so
good.
You've got quite a bit more length this way. And they're nice. They're dual density. You can take the pad out if you want, or you can leave it in. Yeah,
that's pretty impressive. Right, shoe number 2.
Okay, so this one here is...
I think this is its friend, is that right?
Yeah, that's the front. Okay, so these were the first ones, really, that I used and got horses going around Europe with their shoes glued on. These are a Versa glue. They're often sold as a carry step as well, over here. They're very robust, but and you might look at them and think, oh, they're a bit like a welly boot, but they're very stable. And you can put studs in them, no problem at all. The horses really seem to like them. This style of cuff is very robust and very resilient, especially if you're double studding and you've got horses travelling distance. These are very good.
Cool.
Obviously the front and hind shapes are a bit different, and some of these shapes aren't to everyone's taste, but the hinds often go very well on the fronts, especially with the narrower type thing.
Yeah, the warm bloods. Right, shoe style number 3.
Okay. So this is speed, and you can see between the two here, the section is quite different. This is sort of a racier, speedier version of this in many respects. Section's very different. It gives you more opportunities. You can cut the back of this. You can make it more dynamic. You can have more expansion. You can see the cuff slightly different. Less holes. But these are both brilliant shoes. Some horses prefer this wider section than others prefer this, but they're both very versatile, and you can get this with a aluminium insert, and whether that has studs or not. So you have a track or what's the other one? Speed metal, is the same shape, but with a steel insert, gives it more stability, and then the speed track is the same as that, but it's got stud holes in it. Here we go. The roller, this was a collaboration with Jim Blurton. Horses really do like these. They give a fair bit of stability. Some horses, when they go from traditional nailed-on shoes to an all polyurethane, like a Speed, this is quite a lot more dynamic compared to a nailed-on shoe. There's a lot more flexibility, and some of them don't initially like it. So sometimes a transition, if the owner specifically wants a horse to be in non-nailed shoes, in a polyurethane, often the best transition is through a roller, because you have all the benefits of the indirect gluing, but you have the stability of the aluminium core, and you can remove the frog support if you want. It makes no difference to the performance of the shoe.
Can I put stud holes in that?
Yeah. But with the polyurethane, if you cut the frog support out, it becomes ultra dynamic. Whereas with the aluminium, you cut the frog support out, that makes no difference. Okay.
Right, what's this one?
This is a speed track. So this one has 4 stud holes in it, and this is that's his friend. Yeah. Okay. The 4 stud holes are more for cold countries where they have traction issues, and they're putting toe studs in and stuff. But you could traditionally run a 3/8 stud in that, no problem.
And are these in 3/8 BSW British Standard Whitworth, or are these in millimetre?
Both.
Okay.
As far as I'm aware, it's 3/8. Okay, yeah, so they are 3/8.
So the thread is a normal one, so in the UK, we don't need to worry at all.
No way.
Sorry, I'm just going to hand you the microphone so you can say this.
So the one thing about sizing, most pieces, different between so 126 and the 130. So if the 130 is a little too big, the 126 probably going to fit pretty well. So that's just so you know the differences on those sizes.
That's cool. And are you better being a bit small than being a bit big? So, like, I used to use the old school black Easy Care Ease Walkers. Love those shoes. I had a horse compete on a team in them. They're great. But they always said, be a bit small rather than be a bit big. What's your feeling on these?
It depends on your fit, but if you're initially getting into it, you're better to have a shoe that's slightly smaller, heat fit the cuff, and not have any problems.
Yeah.
Because there's less torsion and flex on the cuff and everything. And then as you get more confident and you decide how you want your fit to be, then you can get more adventurous.
Yeah.
But initially, if things are a little bit snug, you do get a lot more support because of the way the setup is with the frog plate and all the rest of it. If you're fitting them quite snug, it's not actually as snug as you think. And for 1 cycle or 2 cycles, you definitely want the shoes to stay on, is the key thing. And then you can go up sizes. You come back to it in 4 or 5 weeks and you think, I cheated that a bit. And if you were doing it the same with steel shoes, you'd think, okay, we need to give it a bit more width and length. And it's no different. You're just sensible. We're all professionals here. We've all walked through the mud, and it's no different. We're just using a different product to achieve the same thing. And whether that be because the horse needs it, the owner wants it, that's what we've got to do.
Cool. Well, I think Jeff's going to have a sit down in a dark room and a nosebleed after this weekend. All these questions we've been throwing at him.
That's fine.
I just want to say a massive thank you to Easy Care, a massive thank you to Jeff for coming and giving us his knowledge dump and just helping us to be that little bit better and be that bit more confident. So I think round of applause for Jeff, please.
Thank you. Thank you to everybody else. But you can always contact us. You can either contact Easy Care if you've got any questions, but if you want any technical issues or anything, just contact me, Glue Guru, on Facebook, and we'll message you back if you've got any problems. If you want to do a CPD day through NAFB or whatever it is this week, BFBA. Yeah, we go. Okay. Yeah. We're happy to work with the chapters and do demos and all that sort of stuff. Cool. So don't be, don't be
feel
afraid.
Like you've got to go on your own.
No.
That's options.
Yeah. But if you've got any questions, if you're having a problem, if things aren't working out for you, just send us a message. And also Chris does a lot of demos and stuff with me. He's super good. Yeah. He's really good as well. Yeah. So you can always message one of us, and we're more than happy to help you.
No, I'd say for myself, we've messaged Jeff independently about jumping horses, and the knowledge dump that Jeff handed over was amazing. And it's these little things that make the difference. But thank you very much again. Thank you to everyone for coming. Have a safe trip home. Go and buy some stuff. Thank you.
Cool.
Oh man.